Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Small Business Success Summit. We are sad we can't join you in person, but we are excited that we can still bring this to you today. And we realize that so many of you need this more than ever this year. So thank you for being here today. I am Christina Moffett. I am the Director of Small Business Resources for the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and it's my pleasure to welcome you. We are delighted that you can be here and we'll take a day out to really focus on your business and help build your future. As an entrepreneur myself, for the last 10 years, I know your struggles that you have faced this year. And when making this event virtual, it was really important for us to bring relevant issues to you. We realize that facing the pandemic looks nothing like anything your business has faced before. Just a couple reminders today. We will ask that you leave your mics on mute and that you use the chat function if you need help or you want to ask a question. We also ask that you leave your cameras off so that we can save the bandwidth for the presenters. All of these sessions are being recorded. So if you want to see two breakouts at the same time, you're in luck because you can catch the recordings in the next couple weeks as we trim them down and get them back out onto the Summit website. This event would not be possible without the help of our sponsors. So first of all, I would like to thank Kauffman Foundation for stepping up this year and being our presenting sponsor. It's really helped us take this virtual for you. Thank you to the Business Record for being our media sponsor for the fourth year in a row. They have been very passionate about sharing the story of small businesses and what they're facing through this pandemic, as well as getting timely information out to their readers. Thank you to our patron sponsor, Google, and our radio sponsor, La Cubana 106.9 for sharing this leading up to the event. Our champion sponsors this year are Goldman Sachs, 10,000 Small Businesses, Hatch, Downing, Brown Winnick, Lincoln Savings Bank, Bankers Trust, Iowa Economic Development Authority. Thank you all for being champion sponsors. Our supporter sponsors this year are Cirrus, PDT CPAs and Advisors, and Mid-American Energy, Drake Entrepreneurship Center, City of Ankeny, Iowa Center, NABO, and Fuse Des Moines. Thank you for being supporter sponsors. I want to give a special shout out to Gravitate this year for allowing part of our staff to broadcast from their facility. And I also want to give a shout out to our supporting sponsors. This whole event would not be possible to bring this to you virtually without the support of them. If you need anything throughout the day, today or tomorrow, please don't hesitate to type in the chat, and our DSM partnership team is here to help. It is my great pleasure to welcome Gene Meyer, the president of the Greater Des Moines Partnership, to introduce our keynote speaker. Gene?
A graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy with a PhD in economics, Mary learned lessons in leadership during more than 30 or 20 years of active duty in intelligence and logistics in the U.S. Navy. And as a part of her military service, she taught more than 40,000 military and civilian personnel about economics, finance, history, and management. This experience reinforced her belief in the importance of clear communication and strong leadership skills, especially in stressful situations. That's why she believes that productivity and employee engagement starts at the top, and why she now trains CEOs and business owners on how to create positive workplaces. Leaders need to set expectations and boost morale, and to encourage their people to perform at their peak potential. In addition to being or leading popular workshops at strategic retreats, Mary has written several books on the topics of leadership, including 360 Degrees of Leadership, Steering Around the Icebergs, 15 Ways to Grow Your Business in Every Economy, Why Leaders Fail, and the 7 Prescriptions for Success, and the multi-award-winning bestseller, Master Your World, 10 dog-inspired leadership lessons to improve productivity, profits, and communication. Mary, we're excited that you're here to share your stories, your experiences, and your energy. Please join me in welcoming coffee addict and dog lover from Monument, Colorado, Commander Dr. Mary Kelly. Mary?
Hey, thank you so much. I am really excited to be with you today. I love business, and I need to share with you that I grew up in a small business family. This is in Texas, and back in Texas, you didn't have to worry about things like work laws for the lawyers in the room. I know we've got some of them, yay you, but my parents, we grew up in farm country. I'm from Minnesota. And when you're old enough to do stuff, you do chores and you do work. And we worked trade shows. I have been setting up vendor booths since I was about 7. I could write orders at 10. And I am well familiar with some of the challenges some of you are feeling right now. When I got out of the military, I did start a business that deals predominantly with leadership development and business growth. So let's get to it. This is all about a time of how we best lead people through challenges, changes, and crises. And we've certainly got a lot of that. If the global pandemic wasn't enough, now we have this election fund, which is causing some stress for some of you as well. Right now, some employees are saying, hey, I don't want to come back to work. And you're going, wait a second, you're a great employee. Why don't you want to come back to work? And they're saying, because I'm not sure I feel safe. Safe is the new buzzword. And as leaders, now all of a sudden you're thinking, really, I have to contend with more of these things. It's tough to be a leader during the best of times. When things are challenging, this is when real leadership rises to the top. And we've got to be resilient leaders. We have to help people focus on what is most important and help them identify the right actions that they need to take to move forward. That's what leadership is. And so this is the Pivot program. It's the stages of a crisis so we can better understand where our people are. And then it's how we get people through the crises, and then how do we lead them out of it. So this is all about being resilient as leaders and developing resilient people around us. So when I think about resiliency, I think about those big red rubber balls that we all had as kids in the gym when we played dodgeball. Remember those big red balls? Now I don't think they're allowed to play dodgeball anymore because too many kids were getting hit in the head. But if you took that ball and you threw it really hard against the ground, it would bounce up even higher. If you drop the ball very gently, it doesn't bounce very high at all. That's resiliency. When you stress the ball or stress people, either they become more resilient or they don't. Do they bounce or do they not? Resilient leaders have to help our people adapt quickly during times of challenge, change, and crisis. We pivot, we help our people take the right action at the right time. Now, the big question, of course, is can you better engage your people? It's sad when you think about all the studies out there that say that your employees are not as productive, not as engaged as they could be. So how do you better engage people when, frankly, there's a lot going on? There's a lot of distractions in their life. And for them, you've got to see it from where they are. And that is how we better engage people. And we're going to get some tactics on how to do that. You're thinking, I'm already an awesome leader. Well, yes, you are, because you're here today. Can you actually improve? I think leadership is kind of like going to the gym. I go to the gym not to necessarily get better, but so I don't get worse. There's a part of that. I'm currently in another conference for the Chief Executive Network, and they had Marshall Goldsmith on that. And he says smart stuff. And so I'm trying to pay attention to that as well, because he and I talk about a lot of the same leadership issues, but we can always learn something, I think, from somebody else. And I go to every session with the intent of, if I can just get one good nugget, if I can just get one thing, that would be fantastic. And that would be enough for me to make it worth my while. So I like that a lot. So can we actually improve? The answer is, I hope yes. And how can we improve our corporate culture in our own workspace, but also get our people to work better together and create even better value for the people we serve? So that was a great introduction. I'm wildly grateful. I did go to the Naval Academy. I was very fortunate to serve on active duty for 25 years. I am listed as the 56th most influential economist in the world. I held 16th for a long time, and then they changed the algorithms, and then they stopped the list. So I'm now stuck at 56th. I taught at both the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy. My husband and I, he was a Marine, we met while we were both doing counterterrorism. Doesn't that sound romantic? And now I write books and I help people improve profit growth for their business. So when this virus crisis hit, and it is a different virus crisis, all of a sudden we were thrown into an entirely new situation. And I just want to share with you some of the things I learned through the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, and during 9/11 when I had command. And that is that there are 6 stages of a crisis, that you are probably witnessing people around you go through those stages. There are 5 steps to pivot out of that crisis. And I use pivot as an acronym as well as action steps. And then I'm going to talk to you about 7 leadership reminders. And throughout this time, I'm going to throw in some business growth tactics, because this is where leadership and business growth go hand in hand. We have to understand where people around us are. And that's not just our employees. That is our buyers. That is our clients, our customers. It could be our family members. But then we also have to find ways to help them with where they are. And then some leadership reminders while we're growing our business in the process. So let's get to it. This is a different situation. It is not just like a hurricane that swept through town and destroyed some businesses. No, this is a global pandemic. Every country has been affected. And I know it's hard to see that from the news because, we dwell on our own economic crisis. We don't think about the fact that India's second quarter was down by 76%. That is a huge GDP loss. And ours bounced back up to 33% in third quarter. That's fantastic. But if you watch our news, you would think that it is only affecting us, and that is not true. Think about the countries where they don't have great sanitation. They don't have soap and water, much less masks and all these other safety precautions and, Lysol. So there's that. So it is different. The very first stage is the rejection stage. And maybe you were in this, maybe you saw this, maybe you were part of this, but the rejection phase was or is, hey, it's not that bad. It's not really going to affect me. It only affects people with pre-existing conditions, people with whatever. We make justifications in our head of why this doesn't affect us. And then we say, it's just like the bad flu. Well, it's like a very bad flu if you get it. But in the beginning, we all thought, okay, well, there's just another thing to contend with. We got this. We're resilient. We can do this. And all of a sudden, and I've still got family members who are not terribly stupid. They're a little stupid, but some family members who still say, oh, it's all made up. None of it's real. Okay. So I just roll my eyes, trying not to do that in front of them. This is the rejection phase. And we understand that some people wake up and say, okay, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And that's partly to help themselves through that phase. And then all of a sudden we start to think about it and say, all right, so if this is real, what needs to happen? And this is the recognition phase. Okay, I'm going to save money on commuting. I can work in sweatpants or short pants or yoga pants or no pants. I have to work from home. I get to work from home. And then some people said, I get to work from home in the beginning. This is a great idea. I'll have more time with family. And then it's, I have to work from home. When can I go back to the office? And again, we think that because maybe our situation is good at home, we sometimes forget that other people's are not. And that when you've got plenty of space in your house, you've got great bandwidth, you've got plenty of computers, your kids all understand how to do homeschooling by themselves because they are gadget smart and everything is wonderful. You forget that not everybody has that situation at home. And that for some people, going to work is the best part of the day because they're not home. And we need to just understand that for some people, that recognition phase is not a great phase. And so then we also realize that we're going to have to adapt. And this might mean including other people. We might need more than one generation living under the same roof. And you may have maybe your in-laws moved in with you in January because they thought they were going to be in a transition to an assisted living place, but now they can't move in there. And meanwhile, your kids are homeschooling. If you are the parent of a child aged 18 to 29, guess what? 52% of you have your children living at home with you. Congratulations. That either makes you really good parents or you fill in the blank. The point there is that in February, it was only 47% of 18 to 29-year-olds living at home or in a college dorm. That all counts as living at home. But we've seen this increase. By the way, it is higher in the Northeast at 57%, and it is 55% if your child happens to be male, just FYI. And so meanwhile, we're all struggling to balance work and dogs and children and everything else while our office managers are helping us work. Oh, if only everyone's life looked this tranquil. And this gets us into the realization phase. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, I've got to step up my leadership, both for my business and at home, even if I'm just home alone with the dog. need reassurances from me. I might need better technology. I might have to devote more time to my family because guess what? Now I'm also teaching Common Core math to my fourth grader. I might have to reconfigure part of my home as a workspace. And that frankly might be a bathroom. And this not only could last for months, it is lasting for months and in fact years. And if you're nostalgic for 2019, sorry, it's gone. It is gone. We're going to have to contend with this virus forever. It's just part of life. Now, this is the realization phase. And that means we take more permanent actions in order to make it real. We reconfigure things. We get better gear. For some people, that means getting another computer, better microphones, better lighting in your office. Whatever that looks like, now you've got a plan for the long term. Your strategic plan has shifted. And that moves us into the resolution phase. All right, we got this. We can do this. We can do this together. Let's support each other. Now, keep in mind, folks, a lot of people cycle through all 4 of these first stages of a crisis every single morning with breakfast, with coffee, before they do anything else. They wake up and say, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, I can work from home. It'll be fine. And then there's always that it'll be fine in the background running through your head. It'll be fine. And then there's the realization phase. Some things have to change. Okay, we got this. Resolution. These are all very myopic stages. This is circle the wagons. This is protect me, my family, my business, my home, my dog, my cat. Help my children, help my spouse, help my partner, help my parents. Very myopic, very inwardly focused. And that's normal. But real leaders and business owners have to be focused on the last 2 stages of a crisis. So let's have some fun. I'd love to hear from you. Let's start this off. What stage do you think the majority of your people are in right now? So you can text me. That is my personal number. This is my phone. Or you can put it in the chat box if you'd like. Probably even better, just write in the chat box of what stage you think your people are in right now. And just so you know, here's the 4 stages. As a reminder, I do run 3 computers in the Navy. I was used to having a command center. We call it a CIC. And I'm used to having several computers at the same time. So I have them built up on stands. And so occasionally, if you see me looking off to my right, your left, it is because I am monitoring the chat box. And there's Angela. Angela, hey, my friend, the realization phase. Beautiful. Yes, your family does need more of your time. Some people are in that final stage. Your clients are everywhere. Yes, Dan, you're absolutely right. The resolution stage. Okay. And again, depending upon when you talk to your clients, they might be, maybe they had a really rough day and they were homeschooling kids and all of a sudden, they didn't get any work done and they're just all over the map and it's really tough for them. So realization phase, resolution stage, more realization from Amanda. Terrific. Terrific. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Realization for most, it seems to take a lot of time. You are absolutely right because we don't want to. The habenula of our brain doesn't like change. The habenula says, hey, 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 hey. What's been going on this whole time? See, that's kept us alive. Change is bad. Do not change. Change is bad. The habenula resists change. This is why our brain actively works against shifts. It's not a fault. It's just how our brain reacts. But here's what's interesting. Once we get to that realization phase, if we as leaders can give people active steps that we need from them, our habenula goes, oh, okay, we can do that. And it's very, very quick to adjust. So y'all, you might just want to check the microphone. It sounds like somebody might have clicked. By the way, for some people with Zoom, depending upon what kind of computer you are, if you hit the space bar, that can unmute you as well. But I want to hear from you in the chat box. So people bounce between that realization and resolution, you bet. Because, you know, Midwest tough, you're tough. You're tough. And this resolution, we can do it. We can do it. This is difficult when you're the leader. So keep thinking about that. And when you have a client or a customer who maybe is a little stressed or a little frustrated or maybe even fearful, instead of trying to think, wow, they're cranky, instead try to identify it as, wow, it looks like they're kind of still in the rejection phase, or maybe they're just getting into the realization phase where Things are just a little bit tougher. And it allows us to have the capacity to be more patient with them. And I think that's really valuable. So where do we as business leaders need to be today? Well, if only working from home looked like this is not what working from home or working at alternative work sites or what our work looks like anyway right now. We have to be focused on the new reality. And for those of you without teenagers at home, those are virtual reality glasses on that lovely gentleman. This is the new reality. And we know that thousands of details moving forward in our businesses will change. So think about the last time, if you've ever bought a new car, you go to a car dealership, and if you've bought a used car, you don't have as many choices at all. But think about you got a choice between the color of the car, black, silver, gray, blue, green, and then maybe leather seats versus cloth seats, and then maybe the stereo system. Those were your choices. Most cars are exactly like every other car on the road. There's an engine, there's a drink cup holder, and a steering wheel. That's what you got. But cars of the future, well, we don't even know if we need a steering wheel because we may not need drivers to drive them. We're not sure we need tires because maybe they will fly. I really thought in 2020 we'd be thinking about flying cars, kind of like the Jetsons, and instead we're telling people to wash their hands. Not sure we've made great strides forward on that. Anyway, thousands of details moving forward will change, including how we bring people together, because it's just going to be more difficult. And we've got to acknowledge that and understand that as leaders, which means details that we never thought about in our businesses will change, which means we have to ask questions that are the new realignment. What can I do to better support my customers during and through this time and into the future? One of my favorite questions is always, how can I work cooperatively with my competition? People who normally would be my direct competition are, in my world, my closest collaborators as well. Where can I improve my processes? What is my process improvement like? What does that look like? What do we need to be doing differently to move forward? And how does this change my leadership? And it does change your leadership, because leadership, as you know, is very individual. And it's not just leading your employees, it's also leading your family members, the people around you, your clients, into making the right decisions. And it is going to impact your organizational strategic planning. How is it going to change that moving forward? Well, you know, a year ago, I don't know about you, but I didn't own a mask. And I didn't own a mask because I am not a surgeon and I wasn't intending on robbing a bank anytime soon. So of course I didn't own a mask. And then all on Facebook and Pinterest, people are like, oh, you can just craft your own mask. Okay, that didn't work very well either. I tried wrapping things and sewing things, and it mostly looked like a third grade class project gone terribly, terribly wrong. It did not work. I did not own a mask. I didn't own that. I had to buy them, and then I had to wait for them to be delivered. Smart businesses were standing outside of their workplaces, handing out masks to people so that they would come in. Now, some people took the mask just to get a mask. I may have done that. But then once I got in the store, I thought, oh, I should buy something while I'm here. It was a very smart thing. And maybe that wasn't in their resource allocation at the beginning of 2020, but guess where it is now? So how do I equip my team to manage change as well? Because again, change is hard. Our brain doesn't like it, our body resists it, and we've got to lead our people through it. Where do we need to allocate our scarce resources? And what do we need to create and develop that will make our products better, more accessible, increase our market share, increase our profit margin? What does that look like? And how do we respond quickly to what our markets actually need? And then how do we stay focused? What do we do to help ourselves stay focused, our team stay focused, our family stay focused? Because guess what? Whether it seems that way or not, an additional layer, like an overlay of stress on top of stress of owning your own business, working your own business, it's stressful. And it starts to have the same physiological components as a chronic pain or a long-term illness. We've got to stay focused. We've got to stay healthy. We've got to be looking outward in addition to taking care of ourselves and our family and our business and our people, which begs the question, how do we position ourselves for the future? So what I'd like to challenge you to think about is, if you chose one of these realignment questions to focus on, if you chose one of these to focus on in fourth quarter, and the reason I say fourth quarter is because I'm working with several senior corporate folks who have thrown up their hands and said, it's 2020, I've just given up on the whole year. Wait a second. Do you really expect your employees to show up for fourth quarter and not work? Well, no. Well, then why would you just give up? Well, because I'm just tired. I fill in the blank. You've got all the excuses already in your head. So this is my challenge to them. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this as well. What can I do right now? Which question, if I took this question and focused on this for just fourth quarter, would best set me up for 2021? So go ahead and throw that into the chat box if you like. That would be fantastic. Go ahead and throw that into the chat box. And I would love to see what you think would help you with this. We're also going to do a few things that talk about your business leadership and your business growth as well. So if there's one question that you think you might focus on, go ahead and share that in the chat box. So let's think about our leadership. How do we best lead through a crisis? How do we best do that? I'm going to share with you the secret that we teach our SEAL teams and our Delta Force and our Rangers and our Force Recon Marines. We say, if you're the leader or a leader, and you're all leaders, calm is contagious. You can have an emotional response, but you can't lose it in front of other people. You have to be calm, because if you're calm and you're the leader, people will take their cues from you. Calm is contagious. And it is critical that we stay calm when there is a crisis, a challenge, or a change. Otherwise, the people around us will be unproductive. They will allow the uncertainty of everything going on around them to get the best of them, and they will not be productive or focused. We need to be calm, and we need to help our people take the right action. That's what leadership really is. It's getting people to take the right action at the right time for the right people with the right spirit. And this is critical. Thanks, Cheryl. Calm is contagious. And if you notice, when I even said that, I'm peeling back the curtain, I lowered my voice. Calm is contagious. I used my radio voice. I don't have a radio voice. Who am I kidding? But the idea is we become a little bit slower, a little bit calmer, less excitable, because we've got to be thinking through the crisis. So I threw this in the chat box in the beginning. Many of you are wildly busy. You are balancing this with doing laundry, homeschooling, running your business, providing legal advice, whatever it is you're doing. The resources I have for you today are at kiwilive.com. The keyword, of course, is dog. And Amanda asked a question. And by the way, I encourage you to ask questions the entire way through. And Amanda asked a question. She says, how can I work cooperatively with my competition? So I will give you two very quick examples. When I was working my way through graduate school, I was in the Navy, but I needed to pay for graduate school. And I'm going to school at nights. I've got my Navy job during the day, and I only sleep about 4 hours a night, which is wildly helpful, I should just add. And the way I worked my way through graduate school and made money for graduate school was by editing other people's stuff, not just schoolwork, but anything. I like editing. I like reading. And I come from a family of grammar people. So I went to a local publisher in the town where I lived, and I said, hey, I know you provide editing services for books and high level things and all that. And I need to tell you, I am not your competition for that. I do small editing jobs that you will never want to take on. They will not want to pay your price. I am willing to do those jobs. So I want to help you serve your clients. So here are my cards. So if somebody comes in and they are not a good fit for you, would you please consider handing them my card? And then if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I've got this really big project and I can't do that, I don't have the time, I will cheerfully turn it over to you. And they were a little bit surprised. They said, why would you do that? I said, because we're all trying to take care of people. And that is the key. And Angela from Midwest Speakers Bureau, who was kind enough to get me to talk to you today and get me on the docket. And thank you, Angela, for that. She knows I do this with other speakers all the time. My closest collaborators are my closest competition. The people who do what I do, Meredith Elliott Powell, I co-wrote a book with her. We both get to speak on business and employee engagement and strategic plans and process growth and all those things. My other closest competitor in the leadership space is a guy named Peter Stark out of San Diego. I co-wrote a book with him called Why Leaders Fail and the 7 Prescriptions for Success. And people ask us all the time, why would you do that? And my answer, Amanda, and anybody else, is because when you work with your competition, first off, you'll learn something. And second, they push you to be better. And in terms of that deliverable to my clients, I'm always trying to get just a little bit better, and having that competition makes us better. So yes, that is, I hope that answers a little bit of that question. So let's get into the PIVOT as an acronym. help your people reestablish their purpose and why it is they got into this business in the first place, because it's very easy to be confused by what I call chaff. Chaff in the military is a distraction. Chaff is when you are in a plane and there's a missile locked onto you. And by the way, the first two words that go through your head are not happy birthday. Just saying. A missile locks onto you, it gets into range, and you have a button on your console that says chaff. You're going to release the chaff. Chaff is a distraction. Think of a big garbage bag, a really big garbage bag, like the kind a hay bale would fit in. And think about that full of sawdust, but it's not wood shavings, it's metal shavings inside this big bag. And you deploy that and it bursts into the sky in this big metal cloud. And the missile gets in the middle of this metal cloud and says, oh, this must be the plane I am trying to destroy. And it blows up in the chaff in this big cloud of metal shavings while you fly safely away. Chaff is a distraction. And right now, chaff is confusion. It's hierarchical obstacles, it's attention deficit for everything going on around us, and it's fear and frustration. Chaff is a distraction. In order to combat the chaff, we as leaders have to pivot, and here are the 5 ways to do that. Reestablish your purpose. Ask yourself, what is most important to you? And then ask your people, hey, what's most important to you and your life and your situation? And then be prepared to listen to the answers. And then ask the question to yourself as well as others. What drives you to do what you do? What motivates you? What motivates the people around you? What motivates your kids to do well in school? What doesn't motivate them? Some people say that leaders can't motivate other people. They say it all has to be intrinsic. It has to be, coming from the inside of the other person. Well, I push back against that because I have definitely worked for leaders who unmotivated me. So by the transitive property, if they can unmotivate me, I think they can also motivate me as well. So what provides motivation for other people? And then this is a silly question, and we don't think about it all the time in business, but what really gives your life meaning at work? Why did you get into this? Why do you love what you get to do? And I asked that question yesterday after a program for a company that makes valves. I know, valves. I said, so what do you love about what you get to do? And it was amazing to me, the answers they shared. So it's a good question to ask. Now, reinvigorate people's purpose, that's the P. The I is influence and inspire the people around you. And what I mean by that is you as a leader have to be optimistic. Now, I'm not talking sunshine, rainbows, sparkles, and unicorns every day. That is not what I mean. But as my friend Peter Stark says, as a leader, you don't have the luxury of not having hope. And I turn it a little bit. I follow what the APA, the American Psychological Association, defines as optimism. And I say, as a leader, your job is to be an optimist, which means looking at a given situation and saying, you know what? I can make that better. And when people get that from you, they realize that your attitude is contagious. If you show up every single day saying, oh gosh, this crisis, oh gosh, this election, oh gosh, fourth quarter, oh gosh, people will realize that they don't have to try very hard when they're around you. And in fact, you're making it a struggle for them to be more successful. So don't discount the fact that when you are around other people, whether at home or at work, they will take their emotional cues from you. So your job is to be influential and inspirational, even when you're just doing day-to-day stuff. And that's hard for some people to understand. Now, let's get into the volatility. We are in volatile times, but we've always been in volatile times. Life is all about uncertainty. Is it a little bit more uncertain now? Yes, but it was uncertain during the Middle Ages too. It was uncertain during World War II. It was uncertain during the Spanish flu. It was uncertain during the Civil War. Life is an uncertain place. We have to assess the volatility of the people around us and understand that some people may be handling it a little bit better than others. So as you can tell, I kind of like wordplay. So with the volatility, with the V, some people are still in a very vague, foggy place. Some people are vexed. They're frustrated all the time. Some people are feeling particularly vulnerable, especially if they have at-risk people in their household, or they might be at risk. They may be feeling very vulnerable during this time. Some people are emotionally very vulnerable. We know that mental health in our country has had an increase in patient levels since March. Some people, however, are those mental health providers. And they have stepped up and they say, I have never felt more needed in my life. I feel valuable. And some people say, you know what? I was born for this. I was born for a crisis. Bring it on. Let me know what's happening next. They are victorious. Our job as leaders is to assess where people are in our world, because every major shift does come with the degree of uncertainty, which is all about life. Now, if I asked you the question, I said, so how you doing? Well, I probably wouldn't get much of an answer. So when you ask other people around you, hey, how you doing? You're going to get three words back. You're going to get good, great, or fine. One of those 3 words is pretty common. You pass people in the street, how you doing? Great. How you doing? Good. How you doing? Fine. Doesn't tell you anything about what's going on. So I like to use a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 being absolutely terrible, I'm looking for the next bridge to jump off of, versus, which we've had some people do that, versus 10, my life could not be better. If you say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being bad and 10 being fantastic, how are you? You might have somebody around you, an employee, who says, you know what? I'm at a 9.5. You know, my in-laws moved in with us in January. They were going to move to assisted living, but hey, it turns out it has been great having them home. And you know, my twin 26-year-olds, the boy and the girl, they moved back home too. And it turns out it's been great having them under the roof. They're able to do college classes when they want to, and they're helping the 12-year-old and the twin 6-year-olds with their homeschooling as well. It's been fantastic. My wife, my husband, my partner, whoever, we've all just decided that we love having dinner together every single night. We've got plenty of computers to go around. You know, we upgraded to high-speed Wi-Fi back in February before all this happened. So it's been great. I've never loved being around my family more. Okay, if everybody's family was that great, that would be fantastic. That's a very different leadership response from you than if they say a 2. My in-laws moved back with us in January because they were going to assisted living because they require full-time care. And it has been a disaster because we had to give them our bedroom. We're sleeping on the couches. The twin 26-year-olds came home. They have taken over the 1 empty room in the basement. They've got their friends over all the time. It's a nightmare. They're up at all hours of the night. The 12-year-old is cranky because he or she can't see their friends. And the twin 6-year-olds, well, as it turns out, they don't know how to homeschool themselves. I am stressed. We are miserable at home. And oh yeah, did I mention in January, we bought the tiny house. We're all sharing 900 square feet. Okay, see, that's a very different leadership response from you than the 9.5. And your leadership has to match where they are. It is about them, and it always has to be about them. So measuring the volatility, just saying, hey, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? And if somebody goes, okay, I'm at a 5, you as a leader say, how can we get that up to a 6 or a 7? And then sometimes they think about it and they say, you know, you're right, it kind of is a 6 or 7. Or if they say, hey, I would just like to do this, or, you know, I'd really like us to do this small thing differently at work. It's a great idea. Let's do that. Or I just really need something. I had this morning, I was talking to an exec, and he had used this volatility scale with some of his people. And he said, one of my employees said, I can't get work done at home. I said, okay, what'd you do? And he goes, well, I was going to talk to you. I said, well, what do you think you should do? And he goes, what do you think I should do? So that was a fun game to play. And I said, it will be so easy for you to rent him an office space or something very close to where he lives so that he can get away from the house and use that space. Because the problem is he doesn't have great Wi-Fi at his house. He can't get stuff done. It's just too distracting.
A todos les enviamos un enlace donde...
Okay, so because of that, I said, you know, it would be very cheap because office space right now is pretty cheap. So it was like, oh, that's a great idea. So I called him. So we arranged that this morning at like 8 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, he called me and said, my employee has never been happier. We found a place in 15 minutes. He's there now. And he took his teenage kids who are trying to do homeschool. It's so much easier for them to get internet that way. So great, you know, just great idea. Simple, tiny shifts and solutions. And you as a leader get to provide those. Now, as you know, I was in the Navy, and we have to live with volatility all the time. This is a carrier battle group. The carrier, of course, is on the right-hand side. So think about if you're from a small town. So think about, I live in a small town in Colorado now. It's about 5,600. And that's about the number of people you have on an aircraft carrier with the air wing attached, and air wing adds another 600 to 900 people. But think about the aircraft carrier. Now, I don't know if you've ever been on one or seen one. They look really big until you try to land a plane on them. And the aircraft carriers that I was on in the beginning of my career were the ones like the Midway, actually the Midway. That's about the size of 2 football fields laid end to end, not the end zones, not the stands, just 2 football fields. Now they're about 3 football fields. That's the Vinson, the Lincoln, the Roosevelt, the newer ones. And then they're about 10 stories high. Now think about every single person in your town of 5,000 people, if you live, or just randomly pick 5,000 people, and think about all the people you like and all the people you don't like, especially the people you don't like, and put them all together in this very small space, and you have to work together. It's a little rough. And keep in mind, you do workups for about 3 months before a deployment, and then you take off on that deployment for 6 to 9 months. And during wartime, it can even be extended up to 12 months that you've been away from home. You've now missed birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases, Thanksgiving, Easter, Halloween, 4th of July, everybody's celebrations, school plays, soccer games, Little League, everything. And it's bad when you're heading home and all of a sudden they say, and you got as far as Australia. And then all of a sudden they turn around and you go back for 3 more months. You were so looking forward to going home. It is a time of volatility, and we do dangerous work. There's a helicopter that's bringing supplies over. We're doing some fueling, unrepping from the 2 smaller ships. And then there's what's called a small boy, usually a frigate or destroyer in the back, that in case something falls overboard or somebody, that they're there to, fix that problem and take care of it and rescue that. And what you don't see in this picture are the 2 submarines. One goes generally ahead of a carrier and one is in the back to protect the carrier battle group. We live with volatility all the time. And I just need to remind you that the average age of a person on an aircraft carrier is 19 and a half years old. Every person needs individual leadership, and we need it not just from our leaders, but from each other and the people around us, especially when you're living in very small spaces. So we've got to be assessing other people's levels of where they are in volatile situations and making sure that whatever the situation is, we got to fix it because we rely on each other all the time or somebody gets really badly hurt. So we need to deal with the volatility. The O in pivot, of course, is finding the opportunities. And I think this is one of the most fun parts of this program because yes, it's a global pandemic. Yes, it's a serious disease. Yes, there's a lot to be concerned with. And yes, many businesses have just suffered remarkable hits. And I completely understand that. But in every situation, there are opportunities. I'm not saying be opportunistic about a terrible disease. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that, again, as leaders, we're optimists and we look at an opportunity and we say, you know what, I can make that better. I can take what's going on. So what specific opportunities do you see going on right now? And yes, we're all in small business and it's been a rough year for even big businesses. So I just want to make you sort of feel better by comparison. This is a list of US stores who have declared bankruptcy in 2020. I thought you might find it interesting. These stores, they've declared bankruptcy. Now, this does not necessarily mean they're going out of business. Some of them are going out of business. But take a look at this list and then think, wow, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing darn well. Good for me. I'm all right because I haven't declared bankruptcy. And so you start to think about this and go, wow. And then there's more. Look, there's another whole page of this. For some, Tuesday Morning has declared bankruptcy, but they're not actually going out of business. Lucky has scaled down remarkably. Hertz will probably not go out of business, but they did declare bankruptcy. Again, there's a difference between going out of business and declaring bankruptcy. Some are doing both. And then you think, well, wow, this 2020 year has certainly taken a hit on that. Well, but then look at 2019. Here were some brick and mortar store closings in 2019. So for some of these, the writing was already on the wall, like JCPenney. It was already on the wall. They were already struggling before this happened. So just so you know, it's a tough time for even the bigger stores and larger chains, which means if you are smaller and you are more agile, then you have opportunity because they cannot be as agile as you. This is a store that popped up in Park Meadows Mall here in Colorado. And if you had told me a year ago, hey, I'm going to create a store that just sells masks in a mall, I would have said there's absolutely no way that business would succeed. And I would be wrong. So we have to find the opportunities. And some of you did take the opportunity to move into a tiny house. And some of you are thinking, hey, my own tiny house in my own backyard where I could just escape from everything else. That's a good idea right about now. So think about it. We know that there are industries that have suffered terribly from 2020, but there are industries that have benefited. They have grown. Zoom is one. Anything that does video teleconferencing has grown. Anything that focuses on home delivery, anything contactless, people who make cleaning supplies, lots of businesses have actually grown through this. And businesses that have pivoted have grown through this. Hanes, the people who make underwear, also now make masks, and they're soft and very comfortable. So just as a thought, we have to be looking at the opportunities. And how do we do that? I wanted to share with you just very quickly. I'm a recovering academic. As I mentioned, I taught for over 30 years as a professor. And when this all hit in July, I wrote a white paper called COVID-19 and the Future of American Business 2020 and Beyond. We're updating it for 2021 in December. And we focused on the 6 buckets of opportunity that we see in the marketplace right now. It is available it's free, of course. It's at businessleadershiproundtable.com. When I started writing it, I was about 20 pages into it. And Amanda, you talk about the cooperative competition. So I called 3 of my smart friends, and it's Mark Hunter, Sam Richter, and Meredith Elliott Powell. And I said, hey, I've got this idea for a white paper. Are you all interested in jumping on in? And they all said yes. And I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. And they said, hey, we need to add another category. They were absolutely right. We round robined the writing several times. We all worked on it together, collectively and individually. And we came up with 6 buckets of opportunity. And I just wanted to share them with you because it's easy to see the sadness. It's easy to say, well, I'm only doing this well. No, we have to be looking at the buckets. And we see it as people, technology, processes, sales and marketing, resources, and entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, of course, is risk-taking for profit-making. And we defined several different challenges within these 6 areas. And we define them as the challenge, the opportunity, and then potential solutions or ways to take advantage of that situation and grow the business. And so, for example, there's a people section, what that looks like. And then this is one of the blocks that is one of our challenges, and that is the market has shifted. And then we write about this, and then we provide, again, specific challenges and opportunities and solutions. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it is a resource for you. And my large businesses have found it very, very helpful to just see it in one place. And I hope that's helpful for you. So think about, where is there a need in your community, in your industry, and in your business? What need can you feel like Hanes suddenly making masks when they were making underwear? And you would think, well, how hard is it? Well, you have to redo the machines. You have to retool everything, but they were able to do it pretty quickly. What can you do that supplies a need? Well, I saw that one of you are in legal services. Do you think people are thinking more about their wills and their trusts right now? You betcha. Do they want to go outside the house to find you? No, they do not. Would they be amenable to doing most of it over the phone? Probably. Do you still need their signatures? You bet. Are there mobile notaries for that? Yes, there are. Can you do it by Zoom? You bet. I would be focusing on that. I would be looking at businesses who are, and again, Jane, you're working with accounting and financial consulting, and thank you for those of you who jumped on in early for that, because the need is there, especially with confusion over taxes and tax rates and tax policies. What does all that look like, and how can we take advantage of that? And how can you better advise people for what they need to be doing? So think about that. We know that things have shifted. We know that it's harder to get people together. We know that there are restrictions, and we've got to find clever ways to get around it. And this is the 5-minute opportunity plan. As Angela knows, and some other people on the call know, I love 5-minute plans. They're one piece of paper that allow you to address a specific issue in 5 minutes. And so some of the questions are things like, why do we not like change, and what do we need to change so that we accept change a little bit better? And we do tend to adapt fairly quickly. What opportunities are we seeing where we can adapt our business to better serve people who maybe are worried about going outside or going to our storefront? Especially things the longer the change looks like it's going to be here, the more we can adapt to that change. So for example, some of you remember when there was a gas shortage in 1973. I know that's a very, very long time ago. And there were odd and even days when you could buy gas. And so if you thought it was only going to go on for a couple of days, you just didn't worry about it. You didn't make big changes. But I had a friend of mine who was 60 years old at the time, and she went out and bought a motorcycle because she said, this is not going to go away anytime soon, and I'm going to adapt. And that's what I'm talking about. If we think the change is going to be short term, we don't change. If we know the change is going to be like the virus, if we know it's going to be with us, we make long changes. And we know that we have to be not only resilient for ourselves, but we also have to find the right information and take the action that we need in order to lead our people forward for those changes. And we know that every challenge brings some kind of opportunity with it. We just have to be the ones to see that. And we have to help others see that as well. That can be very difficult when people are, again, still in those first 4 stages of the crisis. So it's helpful to ask questions like, where are there unmet needs? Where can I best serve other people? Where can I best serve my team? Where can we best serve whoever we serve, whether it's clients or patients or members or customers, whoever those people are? What does that look like? And what are my people's immediate needs right now? And if I had tons of money and resources and time, what would I devote my time, energy, money, and resources to first? And is there something that needs to be invented to solve this problem? And hey, what's the craziest possible idea? And then what's the craziest impossible idea? Let's think way outside that box. And then if we do need to invent or develop something, what would that look like? And my favorite question that I'm asking all my CEOs right now are, what are the benefits of having this challenge right now? How are you going to turn this into a plus for your people and your organization? And in a year, are we going to be proud of the decisions we made and the actions we took in order to make the best of the situation? And in fact, not just survive, but thrive through this. So I want to shift the mindset a little bit, and I would like to invite you to please, in the chat box, write in at least one way this year has made something better. Just one way, something this year has prompted something to be better. So I'm monitoring the chat. I am looking forward to hearing reading your comments on that. One way where this year has actually made things better. And yes, I am not in any way discounting the fact that some people have suffered very badly and it's been very difficult, but there's got to be good stuff. So Pat says virtual meetings, terrific. Daniel says expanded my skills and pass that on to clients. Good. Spend days with my very old dogs. Oh, Amy, I love you for that. That's awesome. COVID made my commute so much better. Work from home, more flexible schedule, more consistent time with family. Beautiful. We've embraced teletherapy. That's beautiful. Brought trainers to the field. Love it. More time with family. Good. Some of you are still liking that time with family, and that's awesome. We've been making better processes. Yes, that's awesome. Affirmation to keep me on track as an entrepreneur. Beautiful. I'm in learning and development. Yes. Challenge us to think about business operations. Yes. Got a website launch. Oh, wonderful. To sell your stuff. Excellent, Nicole. Thank you. Improve processes to assist clients virtually and in person versus in person. Time with family and taking classes on Zoom. Oh, I love all that. That is terrific. So keep those coming. And again, folks, this is something you can do with your employees, especially if people are having just kind of a down moment. Just say, hey, really quickly, write down 5 things where 2020 has made things better. Go. And have people do it. And then you round robin it. And people first start with things like, wait, Daniel, you wrote 4 books? 4 books? Good gracious. Okay, that's impressive. You gotta talk to me about that. Some people say, well, they start off with things like, I learned Zoom or I learned technology or I did that. And then as you round robin it, it does get deeper. I found out that my 12-year-old was wickedly funny and that my 9-year-old was able to tutor some of the 10-year-olds in math, and I'm a better daughter to my aging parents. I am, a better friend to my neighbors. I have been home more, all of these things. See, Daniel, as soon as you wrote 4 books, everybody went, well, there's the end of that. I'm here to tell you, I have not learned Spanish, learned how to play the guitar, and I am rapidly losing my hope that I will ever become an Olympic gymnast. I'm just saying. All right. So again, it's a great exercise. Leaders today, folks, have to know more, plan more, be more comfortable with change, and make change easier for their people. That is part of our job as great leaders. And the T in Pivot is the tools, training, and technology that we have to have in order to move forward. And as many of you mentioned, you talked about tools, training and technology, that you have embraced that, pushed it, adopted it, and adapted. That's what I'm talking about. That's fantastic. So keep it up. Businesses that flourish moving forward will be those with innovative ideas on how to better serve their community. They will be creative problem solvers for things like the contact thing. They will be adaptable, and they will take the right decisive action at the right times. And that's huge. We know as leaders, we're expected to do all these things: be responsible, motivate others, and have a vision, and make decisions, and influence, and create strategy, and have integrity, communicate everything, and contribute to the society we live in. All of those things. But it all comes down to serving other people in the best possible ways. And now, if you didn't feel as though you were able to serve people as well as you could have before all this, now people need you more than ever. And we need you to pivot. We need you to shift it into high gear. Now, some of you have employees that might be working from home, and I wanted to address this because it is creating some uncertainty. Before this happened, working from home was kind of a nice to do. Only 4% of Americans were working from home. Now 52% of freelancers are working from home. It was nice to do before, and now it's kind of expected. And we wonder sometimes, how do I know my people are working? You don't. You got to hire the best people possible, trust them to do their job, give them roles and responsibilities, set expectations, and hold them accountable. That's it. Are my people taking care of my clients? Well, call your clients and ask. How long will this go on? A while, a long time. I'm also an economic forecaster, and when this all hit in March, I said, we've got at least 18 months of this. So we've got to make changes quickly, to adapt fast, to take care of other people. And again, before COVID, working from home was kind of considered nice to do. Now it is more expected. So really quickly, we've got a few minutes. I want to ask you about the 5-minute business growth assessment. This is in Kiwi Live. And what I'd like to invite you to do, because this is all about growing your business, is pick 3 things from this list. And it's in your Kiwi Live. We don't have time to go through it now. It's in your Kiwi Live, that if you addressed 3 things on this list and improved 3 things on this list, your business would grow. You would have a better ROI. This would be an investment in your business, whether it's your time, your money, or your resources, but you would have a great ROI. And I would especially like you to think about the last 3 items. First, we devote resources on professional training for our team. Now, you're all here today. What are you going to take back to your team? That's one of the questions for these 2 days. What can you take back to your team? What will be valuable for your team members? And then, does everyone on the team know how to take great care of the customers? And everybody always says yes. And then the follow-on question, of course, is, do they take great care of your customers all the time? That's always a big question. And then the last one is, do we follow up with our clients and our customers the way we should? And people say, well, maybe. I get maybe a lot on that question. So if we were to improve our follow-up, if we were to take even better care of our customers, and if we were, in fact, to develop our people even better, what kind of ROI would we get? The other things are more of a checklist, but this is all about our business relationships and how we work well with the people around us. Now, when you pick one of those, you set the goal for that. So you say, my goal is to provide monthly follow-up with all of my clients. And then the obstacles. Your brain is immediately, again, our brains, they create obstacles for us. Your brain says, oh, you don't have time to do that. You're barely able to run the business right now. You've got so many things to do. So the obstacles that your brain creates for you, you list those. So I don't have time. I'd have to find my list of clients. I'm not sure what I would do. I don't want to bother them. That comes up more often than you would think. So you create the obstacle list, and then you brainstorm with your team on the solutions. I don't have time. Okay, make time. Well, how much time? 15 minutes a day. Could you take out 15 minutes a day to give your clients the attention they deserve so you keep your clients 15 minutes a day? The answer is probably yes. So schedule it, do it. Well, I don't want to bother them. Well, then provide them with something useful. Give them information they can use. Make sure it is relevant, things like that. And then from that, you create the action steps. Now, an action step is something you can cross off the list. So that is something that's not, I'm going to follow up. It is, I am going to send out a thank you note to these 30 people this month. I have a box of 30 thank you notes. If they're not gone by the end of the month, I know I haven't done it. Those are the kinds of specific actions, things that you can cross off your list. And it's hard to do this. So again, these are all in Kiwi Live. This comes from the book called 5 Minutes Per Week, 52 Weeks to Building a Better Business. It's on Amazon. It comes with the online vault that has about 70 or 80 of the 5-minute plans that help people regain their lives. We as leaders have to be thinking really big thoughts, and we have to craft the plans to move forward, and we have to figure out what people need from us moving forward, and that can be tough. And people ask me all the time, well, how do you stay on task every single day? I use the productivity sheet every single day. Here's mine for today. Not kidding. I do it every single day. The calls to make, the follow-up, the to-dos, the appointments, because so many things pop up and we have to schedule that free hour for those things that pop up. Let's say somebody needs something from me and they need it today. I need to respond today. And for the date, it helps me to stay focused. If I say today is Thursday, the 5th of November, helps me to stay focused. And then when I cross things off that list or I put the check mark in there, I know I did it. And then I 3-hole punch the sheets and I put them in a binder. Now, these are in Kiwi Live, keyword dog, always the dog. These are downloadable, fillable PDF that you can fill in and then print if you like. I mostly just write mine in, but you can do whatever best works for you. If you have sales teams or you have a couple people selling with you, and if you can get them to do this, you will see an increase in productivity almost immediately, because all of a sudden you realize what's getting in their way of being productive and what they're actually doing. And it helps them be organized as well. Now, some people prefer a more time chronological method. And this is what that one looks like. That's also in your Kiwi Live. And then I do a weekly productivity plan as well. So every single week, I start off the week with what do I have to get done this week? The magic here, folks, is the time in minutes. So let's say I have to make a phone call or I have to create a promotional video or I'm going to do something and I just don't want to do it. Whatever. I'm like, okay, it's only going to take me 14 minutes, just get it done. And I put the due date on it. My client's due date is not my due date. If my client needs it by Friday, then my due date to me is Wednesday. And then I make those priorities. Again, if you can get your team to put this together, you can put this on a board and say, hey, here's the action plans for the week. People put their initials next to the thing they're using. That would be fantastic. And this is how people can also see what other people are doing, because sometimes at work, we're not always sure. So again, Kiwi Live, always changing resources there. And please connect with me on LinkedIn because, I'm in my office. I'm needy and lonely. Okay, not that lonely. I have, of course, the dogs. So Kiwi Live, that's where you find stuff. So how do we actually lead people through this? Well, no surprise, there's another acronym. I started it with my medical personnel. Is it the best acronym I've ever created? No, it is not, but it is helpful. It's called CLAMPER. CLAMPER. We want to calm and reassure other people. People need your strategy, your calm presence, and your vision as they move through this crisis. The L, you have to lead through the volatility. The volatility is going to be here. How you respond all depends on you. So strengthen your relationships, creatively think about how you can help more people and come up with innovative ideas. The volatility is here. The A is adapt quickly to the opportunities. Look around and see opportunities. Don't see the misery. Don't see the victim mentality that lots of people like to fall into. Look for ways to improve the processes, procedures, and people. Figure out what you can do even better. The M in Clamper is to manage the uncertainty. And that means providing more communication more often, especially to your people. Most of my leaders say they're great communicators, but guess what? Their people don't say the same thing. You as the communicator are responsible for making sure that message is received. And that means repeating it more than once in different ways and doing it in ways that best resonate with your people. Maybe it's texting, maybe it's emailing, maybe it's calling, maybe it's video conferencing, whatever that looks like. And some people need more check-ins than others. Manage the uncertainty because uncertainty breeds unproductivity and nobody needs more of that. The P in Clamper is to promote collaborationship. Work with your customers, your suppliers, and yes, your competitors. I know it sounds crazy, but we're all in this together. And if we can help each other or bump draft, In NASCAR, it's called bump drafting. You get behind another car and you give them a push forward. It's called bump drafting. We need to be bump drafting each other, pushing each other forward and helping each other, and profits will sort themselves out. Now, the E in Clamper is to encourage resiliency. For some people, they've never really had much adversity before, so help people see the next step. And that means as leaders, sometimes we have to take a large project, break it down into actionable items so that people get quick wins. That means we are encouraging that resiliency. We're helping them move forward. And then the R in Clamper is respond right to changing information. Look, we're never going to have perfect information at all times. It's just not going to happen. So we have to respond at the right time with the right information to the right situation every time. And then we know that's going to change. So this is the 5-minute leadership improvement plan, also in Kiwi Live. I want to just encourage you to be the leader that people want to follow, because guess what? It's a confusing time. People need your guidance, your direction, and your leadership. So there's more free resources here, productiveleaders.com/free. Just for signing on, you get my 52 leadership reminders. It might help. It might not. It's okay with me if it doesn't. This is how you get hold of me. Feel free to take a picture of this slide, because I am going to stop screen sharing and turn it back over to the amazing leaders of this amazing event. And I want to thank you again for allowing me to be with you. Thank you so, so much. Feel free to reach out to me if I can help you with anything at any time. It truly is my honor and pleasure. Thank you.